Funny story by Emily Henry. Chapter 1 is called Wednesday, May 1st, 108 days until I can leave. We start off with this girl named Daphne, who is not the greatest storyteller because every time she tells a story, she needs to pause and try to remember if it was on a Tuesday or a Thursday. But her boyfriend at the time, he was an amazing story, and he would always tell their story about how they met. So the way they met was she was wearing a new hat that her mum gave, and the hat kind of just flew off and it landed on his feet. And then this guy, I think his name is Peter, he tries to pick it up, but then the hat ends up flying away into the bin. And then I think Daphne tries to grab her hat but slams into the bin or something like that. And that's how they met, and they've been dating for 3 years, and they decide to get married. But on the bachelor's party night, he ends up cheating on her, and the reason for that is he cheated on one of his high school best friends or something. Her name was Petra, so you got Peter and Petra, and apparently Petra's really perfect. She's just super beautiful and all this kind of stuff. Peter would always tell the story of how he met Daphne really perfectly because he's just an amazing storyteller. But as soon as they started getting more towards the bachelor party, I think his storytelling was a bit more like he saved, it was framed that he saved Daphne. So that's how they broke up after that bachelor's party, and now they're Peter and Petra are all together, and poor Daphne, she's on her computer searching, going through social media pics to see Petra's profile and see what they're up to. Now, while this is also happening, I think she's also looking for some jobs. Maybe she hears music blasting, the song All By Myself. It's blasting really loud, and one of their neighbors are coming in and knocking hey, come on. And this music is coming from her roommate, and her roommate is Miles, who's this really unkept guy who smells of weed, smells bad. And he's watching Bridget Jones's Diary and that scene is blasting, and it's because he's also going through a breakup as well. Turns out this is not even her house. They're roommates, and this guy Miles, his girlfriend broke up with him recently, and turns out the girlfriend was Petra. So this is already a crazy start to the story. What? So Miles kind of keeps inviting Daphne to come watch Bridget Jones's Diary in his room. I get the feeling that these two will somehow end up together, but oh my god, if it does, it's so cliche. And maybe at the end of the book, they'll watch Bridget Jones's Diary together or something. And I guess my prediction is Miles is going to be more cleaner, that kind of thing. He's going to clean up his act. At the end of the chapter, she's I only have 108 days to stay here or something. I don't know what that means. Is she looking for a new job? Or does she have a new job and she's ready to move out of this area? Going through a breakup is really tough, You kind of have to, you do lots of crazy, impulsive things, and things just don't seem to get any better. And I think you're really vulnerable. And even if you think you're okay, you end up doing crazy stuff. So I wonder if that will happen to her. Just really vulnerable, impulsive, crazy stuff. And yeah, I hope she doesn't get with Miles, but I think it's going to happen. So far, so good. Got me intrigued to read the rest. I think the only thing is I kind of woke up early and it took a while for me. I had to reread a lot of times to get her style and then so that it makes sense to me. I think I'm not the best reader, so I kind of get it now. Oh, and one last thing is Petra moved into Daphne's apartment. Peter and Petra are living in Daphne's apartment while Daphne had to move out of her apartment just to have some space, time to weep, as she says. And that's why she's living with Miles. Crazy situation. So over dinner, I was talking to my girlfriend about the summary of this chapter 1. she asked some really good questions. She asked, why didn't Peter and Petra just get together way back earlier? Shouldn't they be like a happily married couple? My theory is maybe, fate always pulled them apart. Maybe they didn't know they were attracted to each other until some sort of event. And it wasn't until he was like finally getting married. He was like, oh my God, I've made a mistake this whole time. This isn't the love of my life. Yeah. So I wonder if I'm going to be correct or not. Oh, chapter 2 was really good. Chapter 2 explains so much of like questions that we had in mind. So it's called Back in April. And it's called Before I Knew I Needed to Leave. Chapter 1 was called 108 Days Until I Can Leave. And it's in May. I wonder what the timeline is. 108 days. Okay. So she now retells her story of meeting him. I guess the first one was him meeting her. And it seems so perfect. The story was when she bumped into him, he was kind of pulling all the strings. He started talking about her, talking to her, and asked her, and he said like, I really want a big family. Do you want a big family too? I think that kind of got his foot in the door, and they only dated for a year, and then already he wanted to marry her. So pretty quick. I think that's always a bad sign. I wonder what the minimum is to like marry someone. Nah, there should be a minimum. Maybe they must have been engaged for like two extra years, because I think she said she had been with him for 3 years and then they were gonna get married. I don't know what the timeline is, but basically after 1 year of meeting, he proposed to her. And then she's trying to get chummy with his friends. Like one of his friends reads June. It's crazy. So many different references that happen here. That's happened in my life. I wanted to read June. I watched the movies, so she read all 4 Junes to talk to one of his friends, and we learned that one of his best friends is Petra. She's like a stoner, but like she's so perfect. She's so nice. That type of friend that would like give lip gloss to you and say, that looks perfect on you, that kind of thing. But she's not like Miles, because Miles is dirt poor. She's actually rich. So she's like a free floater type person. Let's do a time skip. They go to their bachelor party. And this is where she confesses her love for him. Like, she didn't know about this until, she was going to lose him. So that's why she confessed the love. And he confessed it back. But we hear about this when he comes back home and she wakes up, like she's sleeping on the couch waiting for him, I guess. And he's like, I have some news to tell you. And it's pretty much earth-shattering, or actually the way she puts it is like the plate tectonics have like moved or something. So really it is kind of like earth-shattering. And like, I can imagine her like just like frozen, and you have that like that sound, that beep sound, that shell shock sound. Yeah. And he's just saying something like, she confessed her love to me, like that kind of thing. And in his pocket, he gives her this like note, and it's basically like, she thinks it's an apology note, but it's really just a apartment listings, because she's getting kicked out. He's like, you have a week. And she's like, what? She's really angry. And she has like pretty much a week to find a new apartment. Oh, because basically it isn't her apartment. Like they bought the apartment together, but it was all like under his, like he paid for everything pretty much. She's like dirt poor because she's a librarian. So the apartment is actually his, even though in chapter 1 it felt like it was actually hers. So he gives her the notice, and he's pretty much about to leave with Petra on some holiday trip. And she's furious. She grabs like a jar of almonds and starts like throwing at him. And she's like swaying her head off to him. Like she throws all these almonds at the car, the Jeep that they drive off in. Peter like tries to run away and get in the car. And she's like, ugh! And she throws the almonds and it hits the car wheels and it like skids, and then they drive off. And then coincidentally at that time, Miles is there. He shows up. He knocks on the door. He thinks it's Peter, but it's actually just Miles. And Miles is, Miles looks like he's crying or stoned. You can't tell because his eyes are red. So I'm not sure which one.
And at this moment, this is how she asks him if he has any, like a spare room in his apartment. So that's how we get to the situation of chapter 1. It's crazy. She pretty much answered every type of question that we had from chapter 1. Why is the chapter 1 called 108 days till she can leave? Maybe it takes that long to get a new house. What are some predictions? From this point on, I think she's living with Miles, so she needs to find a place. Maybe it takes 108 days to get, and I think maybe she starts seeing some romance in Miles, but maybe that's too early. For now, she's got to figure out her stuff. Let's end it there.
This chapter's chapter 3. It's called Saturday, May 18th. 91 days until I can leave. So a lot of this chapter was kind of showing their day-to-day life, really. We see what Daphne's life is like as a librarian. She really enjoys doing story hour because she gets to interact with some of the kids. Makes it a little bit sad because that was like the life she could have had with Peter. We see a bit of self-improvement from Miles. Like he doesn't really smell of weed that much anymore. Daphne used to be quite a minimalist, but when she moved in with Peter, she bought a lot of new furniture for their house. Since she's getting kicked out, she took all her furniture with her, and now it's just kind of in Miles's like guest room, pretty much all over the place. Things take a turn when Miles shows a wedding invitation from Peter and Petra, and this pretty much flabbergasts Daphne, and they both go through a big emotional breakdown. They're like crying, and all of a sudden Miles kind of just like kisses her forehead and like holds her or something. Very unexpected because they never really showed any physical contact before that, and I can already see the sparks flying because she hasn't had sex in 6 weeks, and I think she's starting to think about it with Miles. You know what? Miles seems okay now. Like, it's getting better. I knew it was going to happen. We did find out that she's been engaged for 2 years. So they've been together for 3 years. Her and Peter got married. He pulled the question out in year 1, and the remaining 2 were engagements. In the engagement period, I can't talk today. What's happening? She kind of suggests to watch Bridget Jones' Diary with Miles, and Miles doesn't want to do that. He says, why don't we go out somewhere? So my prediction is this date goes well, and I think they're gonna bang already so early in the book. The apartment is tiny, and Daphne's room was pretty much a closet, and when Petra lived there, she actually did use it as a closet. This part caught me by surprise. The day he scooped me into his arms, carried me over the threshold, and said 3 magic words that changed my little minimalist heart forever. So I thought it was going to say, I love you, but it's actually welcome home, Daphne. I like this part. Somehow the kids managed even more enthusiasm for tacos than they did for dragons. She's doing like story hour, reading books. It's like, do you like dragons? They're like, yeah. And then she's like, do you like tacos? Whoa! Seems like story hour is only once a week. There's this librarian called Ashley, and her son's name is Mulder, like from X-Files. Oh, so they did have a 2-year engagement. Yeah, that makes sense. Turns out, what's his name? So Miles works at a winery, and Daphne didn't know the whole time. And he's been working there for like 7 years. You know what's crazy in this time of like, when they're kind of at an emotional breakdown, Miles just straight away like kisses her forehead. It's like their first time of any physical touch. Oh my god, she's already getting attracted to him. I can see the sparks. It's been 6 weeks since she's done it. Oh my god, she's thinking about it. We're on to chapter 4, called chapter 4. Well, it's just called 4. So 2 hours later, after they said, yo, let's go out for drinks, they're now at this place called Meat Locker. It's not really called Meat Locker, but I think it's just like colloquially called that. And they're having a good time, just drinking, making a game of like, you have to take a shot if you do this and that. And they start talking to this stranger, Gil,
and they tell him about their story, but they also find out about Gil's story. And Gil's like really nice, and he's just paying for their drinks all the time. And there's a conversation that comes up that Miles is quite a charming person, that because he works in the hospitality type business, he can use that charm to bring out in people good things, I guess. And because he's a regular, that's like the bartenders know him, and they'll know that he can get drinks from people. I don't know, but he doesn't work at this meat locker place. Anyways, they've drunken a lot and they're on their way home. The two are getting pretty, I guess there's like some sparks flying. She's starting to feel hot, I guess. This is my first like romance novel, and it's kind of like, well, what is this? Where's this going? So they're trying to like open the door to their house or apartment or whatever. I don't know where they live. And like she's like, it feels like there's 3 different keyholes. She's that drunk. And they're just really loud and being obnoxious. And one of the neighbors come out and they're just like, "Oh, shut it up." And they laugh at him. Throughout this process of trying to open the door, they like bump into each other and his hips go on hers. And she's like, "Ooh." There's lots of these like little subtle moments of like sexual tension. And, but, it hasn't led to anything yet. Anyways, once they're inside, he's like, "We should do it." And she's like, "Huh?" She feels like hot and flushed. But really, he's like, "We should respond to the wedding invitation." And yeah, the wedding, they do end up deciding to RSVP it. And then they go to sleep. When she wakes up, she realizes, she hasn't done anything too embarrassing. She's trying to recall back last night, but on her phone, looks like she's downloaded a new dating app during this time. And that's kind of like the cliffhanger. I think someone's like calling her or messaging her. So I don't know what's happening. Predictions, or maybe this will be like a crazy love triangle, like a love square with this new Tinder person and Miles and Peter, although you can kind of exclude Peter. So it's really Daphne, Miles, and this Tinder person. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. And that was that chapter. I think I've never read romance novels, and it's kind of, I guess it sort of makes me feel a little uncomfortable reading it. It's like, ugh, what is this? All right, well, on to chapter 5. 90 days until I can leave. Now I understand what this countdown timers or countdown of the days means, and I will get through that. So the person who calls Daphne is, drumroll, Peter, her ex-husband, ex-fiancé, as they say. So he calls because he got the RSVP last night about Daphne going to his wedding, and he's a bit, I guess, concerned because he's like, "Are you okay? Why are you coming? Basically, I hope everything's all right." In this state, this was a really funny chapter, by the way, like pretty hilarious. Daphne was like still drunk from last night, and basically she says her mind says the right thing, but her mouth says like the complete opposite. And it's pretty funny. What do you call it? Juxtaposition. So yeah, she ends up just saying like, "I have a boyfriend." Like, yeah, she says like she's coming to the wedding with a boyfriend, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't RSVP with a +1." And then she's like, "Oh, well, this person's actually on the invitation list." And, it takes him a while to figure out the calculus in his head. And yeah, he's like, "Miles, really?" And yeah, she's like, "Yeah, Miles, I'm dating Miles." Yeah. And so I don't know, he's probably getting riled up. And he's like, "Oh, you probably won't last 3 months. Are you sure you'll last that long?" Or something like that. Like he gives all these offhanded comments like, "She won't last." That's when the wedding is. It's actually in 3 months. And this chapter is called 90 days later until I can leave. So this whole thing is like they have to pretend they're dating, keep up the appearances, and then I think after 90 days, after this whole wedding, she can finally leave and actually live a normal life without all these lies. After the phone call,
she goes and tells Miles about what happened, and he's pretty cool with it, and he actually really wants to play along with it. And he ends up like taking a photo of themselves together for her social media, and Miles doesn't have social media. And Daphne and Peter, they're still friends on whatever social network they have. Let's call it Facebook. And she hasn't blocked him, but she's unfollowed him. And I don't think she's posted the picture yet, or maybe she will. But they take a picture and he's like, oh, just do whatever you want. If you want to post it, that's cool, or not. But I guess Miles really likes the idea because he wants to get Petra jealous. And he doesn't have his own social media, so he wants Petra to actually see that photo somehow. Yeah, so that's that chapter. What's going to happen next? I guess I'm going to have a lot of situations where they have to prove themselves about this relationship. Maybe you have to keep doing fake Facebook posts and all this kind of stuff. I think maybe the idea in the end is like maybe both those couples end up being jealous and want to break up and get back to their old exes. I don't know. So many like different predictions this could go, and I wonder which one it will take. I still feel like they won't get back together. That just feels wrong. Yeah. I feel like these two are the good guys, and like eventually these two will find out they actually do love each other or something like that. And maybe they all become friends in the end. It doesn't sound right. I'm not sure. Chapter 6, Friday, May 24th. 85 days until I can leave. So we pick off with Daphne working in the library. She's selecting books for her favorite students, I guess. Students, the people who are in her weekly read type thing, whatever it's called. And she has one that she really likes and wants to spend more money on in the budget to buy a really expensive book for her so she can read that. Her friend, Ashley, or co-worker as well, she's a bit of a hothead. She's like swearing and everything, even though she's working in a library. The people who are like playing games in the library are like, huh? What's happening? And she's just swearing her head off because all her friends have like ditched her. Everyone's like a mum. Like Ashley is a mum and all her other friends are mums. And so like every time they want to go out, something always happens and they don't get to go out. And Ashley's just like, oh, I just want to go out and look nice and not talk about D&D. Like I said, when people break up, they start acting different. I mean, this happens to Daphne. She's like, she changes, she becomes impulsive and she's just like, oh, I'll go out with you. I know of a place to go. And she recommends the wine place, like just pops out of her mouth. And it's the wine place that Miles works at. So she recommends that place. So a lot of like, she's not really acting on her brain. It's like the first point of thought just comes out like straight to her mouth. Doesn't even get processed as thought. And I feel like that happens when you get, I don't know, your heart broken and all that. Ashley comes to Daphne's house to pick her up. She really needs to use the bathroom. And when she's done using the bathroom, she wanders into Miles's room. And in there they see, a whole bunch of stuff like snowboard gear and like a picture of Miles with his ex-girlfriend, Petra. And it turns out they've been together for 3 years. This all reminds me of my relationship where, we made it to 3.5 years and then we broke up. This book is bringing up too much trauma. He looked happy back then and all that kind of stuff. And would he take back Petra if he could? Is a question she ponders. And even Daphne ponders that. Like, would she take back Peter if he could? She could. She says no. But who knows? They drive off and end up at this winery place. There's lots of words to describe the place. Basically, it's a nice place. It's so nice that she's like, whoa, mouth wide open, jaw dropped to the floor type thing. And Ashley's just like, wait, have you been here or not? Because it sounds like
Because before, Daphne was like, oh, I've been to this place or whatever. It's a good place. Before this talk, Ashley was like, oh yeah, I know that place. It's that place with that really hot drug dealer. I was like, huh? But we do find out who this hot drug dealer is, and turns out it's Miles. And then, what's her face? Daphne's like surprised. She's like, oh, what? Miles deals drugs? I don't know if this is a real thing or not. Like, is it just like, just some random way of describing him, or is there some truth to it? Sometimes these nicknames, there is some truth to it. So maybe he does deal drugs. Like, he definitely smokes weed, so he probably dealt some weed or something like that. Anyways, Miles hears Daphne's voice, because Daphne's like, Miles deals drugs? And he hears her, and he's like, oh, well, if it isn't my girlfriend. And that's like the cliffhanger of the chapter. It's a good way to end the chapter. Emily Henry has a really good way of like doing good cliffhangers to each chapter, I think. Always makes you want to read the next one to see what's up. Yeah, what are my predictions for this chapter? I guess, I don't know, Ashley is probably gonna see the whole truth, I guess, in this part, and she's gonna, I guess, love it. Or, I don't know, maybe she plays I feel like they have to play long. I don't think Daphne's gonna tell Ashley of the whole plan, or would she? What's she got to lose if she tells the whole plan? I guess if she tells the whole plan to Ashley, maybe Ashley would pass it on to Peter somehow. But I feel like Ashley is a good friend with Daphne. So maybe they do reveal this whole shtick. Another thing is poor Daphne. Like, she has no friends after. Like, she pretty much befriended all of Peter's friends, but then once they broke up, you don't really do contact with him. And like, she even tried reading all 4 of those June books, and now she can't even talk with that person. All right, we'll move on to the next chapter now. We are on to chapter 7. So they're in the bar having a good time, and Daphne doesn't really know Ashley that well. They've only met for like 1 year. Daphne doesn't like that Ashley's always late, and so kind of has like this preconceived judgment about her, and so doesn't really want to open up to her. But during this whole bar conversation, Ashley shows some of her vulnerable sides, which gets Daphne to open up. So Ashley's like, I have a rash on my back. I had my baby in front of the YMCA, and I used to stuff my bra. And I can't believe it took like 3 like big secrets for Daphne to open up. And like, a lot of the library stuff kind of hinted that they knew what was going on, because Daphne had, she took time off work for her wedding, but then she had to cancel that time off work so she could work again. And like, if that happens, yeah, you start making some math calculations. So Daphne finally tells her the whole story of, Peter breaking up with her, and Miles's girlfriend Petra got together with Peter, and now Miles and Daphne are trying to, play along, look like a couple. And she loves this. She's having a good time hearing this story. And she makes a really good comment that Peter might be one of those type of people who are always looking over their shoulder to see what they could have. Like, basically, the grass is always greener. Her analogy is like, as a kid, maybe he would look at other people's lunch boxes and he would trade whatever amazing thing he would have just to have a look inside of what their lunchbox is. So maybe this whole game actually might work. This whole Daphne and Miles thing of trying to get them jealous and look normal. This might work out. At least in my mind, I think this plan is actually working out. And it seems like this whole fiasco is spreading. The news. Now Miles's co-worker, who's friends with Petra, her name's Katia. I guess she looks over and sees that who Miles's new girlfriend is. And she asks Miles, is that your new girlfriend type thing? And he's like, yep. But no more details than that. So it's kind of spreading. And Ashley, like, I guess they have
Miles and Daphne have a natural conversation, a little bit of flirtatious conversation, and Ashley takes a picture of them, and it's like their first real candid photo. And there's this guy at the bar who was like looking at Ashley. I don't know where this is heading. I don't know if she's gonna cheat with this guy or something, but he like flirtatiously like looks at Ashley, even though Ashley's like taken and has a son, 11-year-old son. He's like, oh, let me take a photo of you three. And she's like, yeah, sure. And yeah, they take a picture, having a good time. And I don't know, Ashley says something along the lines of like, maybe that'll do, or something like, oh, what did they actually say? She said, okay, so the last sentence says, everyone say wine, the man says with a wink. Under her breath, Ashley mumbles, I can look past that. So is there some sort of like, she is Ashley going to cheat with this random fella guy? I don't know, that's my prediction. Miles and Daphne have now recruited Ashley into their little thing. And they joke about like, that's like their new dog type thing. Yeah. And another funny dialogue was when Miles was saying, you know, well, the only way to beat them is to out-marry them. So marry them, wait till they get a divorce. And also like have one more kid than they have. And if they have a house, we have to have a mansion. So they always have to one-up them. Yeah, pretty fun chapter, that one. This one's just called Chapter 7. Okay, so I'm confused. Is Ashley married or not? Because she's making out with that guy. My prediction is correct as always. Ashley's like, Daphne, can you take a lift home with Miles? Because I don't want to drive you. I want to get banged by this guy, basically. And she's like, yeah, I'll take a lift home with Miles. Miles is like, let's go out and get some milkshakes and these fries that have like cheese and jalapenos. It actually makes me want to eat some of those type of fries. There's one around here at a ramen place. So I might go there one day. Or tonight. Maybe I'll show a picture of it. And basically, she hasn't gone anywhere. They don't go out much. She reveals that with Peter, it's very, I guess, monotonous. In the sense that Peter's always cooking for them. She can't cook herself. And she's always regulated to doing the dishes. Even when he tried to teach her, she was just so slow. And yeah, stuck with the dishes. And we also learned that everything's pretty much scheduled in their lives. Peter and Daphne, they would schedule everything. Even the sex times. She asked that what was like with Miles. I mean, Miles and Petra, and he's like, oh, he says, oh, maybe we could have benefited with a schedule of some sort to do the nasty, you know? So, yeah, they're seeing like, I think the two opposites seeing what benefits of the other side, you know? I think that's always the case with people. Like, if you work with other people, you can your weaknesses show and you rely on other people's strengths and you kind of learn from each other where you fix your weakness. And yeah. And also this chapter really makes me want to have a milkshake. I don't know where to have a milkshake though. It's been a while since I've had one and it was so good. Yeah, nothing too exciting about this chapter. It seems like they're just pretty much going on a date again. Like, pretty much the way Emily Henry writes Miles, he just seems like such a perfect character. There doesn't seem to be a flaw at the moment with him, besides the weed smoking before. And like, a running gag, I think, is, you know, they keep mentioning about Bridget Jones's Diary. When are they gonna watch it? Like, I predict that'll happen in the end of the book. Like, they'll never ever watch Bridget Jones's Diary together until the end of the book. Miles wants to take Daphne to the beach, even though it's nighttime, and Daphne's like pretty clueless about any places, and Miles seems to know all these places. And she's like, wouldn't it be closed? And he's like, no, they're not the real beaches, so I'm gonna take you to the real beaches. And yeah, so that sets us up for chapter 9. Chapter 9. It's been a while since I've read this book, maybe like a week. So chapter 9, they're on the beach, and you know, not really much happens. We do find out that Daphne has been moving a lot as a kid. So it's one of the reasons why she is the way she is. And on this beach, it's cold and Miles gives her his jacket. to keep her warm. And they're out there on the beach watching the waves, and they have their food, fries and all that, milkshake. She's really cold, she's wearing a jacket. She reaches in and she finds a joint, and Miles is like, oh, I've been looking for that. And then in the other pocket there's like a lighter, and then now they're sharing a joint, and it opens her up a little bit more. We do find out that I think she wants to stay. So you know how the book keeps saying like 80 days till I can leave? I think actually the main reason is because of the book fair. I don't know if the dates line up, but she really cares about doing this book fair before she can leave. Petra sends Miles a message saying, I'm happy for you, that kind of thing. And that causes them to put a response where, they are doing a new picture of them together. In the last split second, Daphne goes in for a kiss. Kisses his cheek. Yeah, kind of crazy it hasn't led to anything more than this so far. I can see that they genuinely like each other. Like Miles keeps saying, I don't want you to leave, because she wants to leave. He's like, no, you need to stay here. There's so much to explore. And we also find out that she never really explored this place, wherever they are. Daphne says, like, Miles, you're the nicest person I've ever met. And he like kisses her on the forehead again, the temple. He always kisses her up here. I'm surprised this scene they didn't end up like making out on the beach. It's like the perfect moment. What are you doing? Stop delaying this, man. When's the banging gonna happen? I think by now it would be Bangtown. I don't know. They're just like delaying it so much. What's there to lose now? That's pretty much that chapter. Alright, chapter 10, Saturday, June 1st. 77 days until I can leave. So it seems like after the beach trip, they've gone back to not really talking, just kind of minimal interactions at the home. For some reason, he has something on his calendar. So on his calendar it says Waning Bay Tourism, which we find out I think is related to this chapter. I don't know, my comprehension's pretty low. In fact, this book, man, I barely get a chance to read it and, or find the motivation to read this book. I mean, it's pretty good, but I don't know. I'm just lazy with being a reader. It hasn't really gripped me to keep reading. So we get some more glimpses into everyone's lives and backstories. Daphne is working at the library again, and I guess one of her co-workers is saying you're really appreciated around here with your work that you do. Meanwhile, in the back of her mind, she's thinking about moving to Oklahoma because there's a new job opportunity there. She does her little read hour thing with the kids, and there was a really good quote which I really connect with here, and it's about kids because I work with kids as a teacher. But as an adult, I find kids so much easier to understand. They say how they feel, and they show it too. There are fewer ulterior motives and unwritten rules. Silences are unbearably awkward, and abrupt segues to different subjects are the norm. If you want to be friends with someone, you just ask. And if they don't want to, they'll probably just tell you. So Daphne's reading this book to all the kids, and she's putting on all these voices, and apparently she's really good. And from the distance, there's Miles walking towards with this big grin. He's he's really enjoying hearing all these voices. And this kind of surprises Daphne that he's here. Yeah, he's just kind of doesn't fit the environment. After the story, he's whistling like this. Woo! Anyways, he tells Daphne that they're going to go somewhere tomorrow. And don't be late, 1 p.m. or something like that. So I think this corresponds to the calendar event that he wrote down. So yeah, it's the next day, and he's a bit late, but he gives her some coffee, and they go out and drive off to the countryside. And he picks up he goes to this amazing asparagus farm and picks up a whole bunch and gets it for free. He's doing the shopping for his workplace, for his chef. He likes to pick up fresh seasonal ingredients, so cherries,
all these other kind of things. And we kind of learn that he's from Illinois, and he actually moved to this place because of his like first girlfriend. She got him a job there, and yeah, he's just been, and she's moved away since, but he's decided to stay. And he says like there was like a conversation like he pretty much admits to like liking her, I guess. I think it's pretty obvious that he likes her. He's like, no, I really want you to stay because I like you, that kind of thing. Like, he's so open about it. But this girl's kind of like, she doesn't see it as an opportunity or... Anyways, apparently he's got a beard now, so he's even more handsome to the ladies. I don't know. The chapter ends with like pretty much a cliffhanger where they're at this place, another one of those pit stops in the tourism thing, and she spots Peter for some reason in this place. She's kind of in that downward spiral, like, why hasn't he ever taken me here, and all that kind of stuff. Let's make some predictions about what's going to happen. I guess, well, Peter's on his way to talk to Daphne by the looks of it. What I think is my prediction is in this next chapter is they're going to really play up the relationship and, I don't know, maybe do some kissing, that kind of stuff in front of Peter. Of course, they're going to have to fake all the emotions like, oh, yeah, I'm so happy. Oh, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And maybe Peter starts reacting kind of jealously. If we go back to previous chapters where Peter is kind of like the guy who looks into other people's lunchboxes, that kind of thing. So yeah, we might get a hint of jealousy type thing. And maybe he starts texting with Daphne or something afterwards. Who knows? Also, we do find out Ashley is actually divorced. They mentioned that Ashley's kids kind of go to the dads at some point, and they share the kids. Yeah. So maybe it was mentioned before, but it was good to have that. So now it's okay that she was in the club looking for, making out with that guy named Craig, who apparently has like heaps of fish memorabilia. Like his theme in his bedroom is like fish, the band Fish, like fish blankets, fish cups, all that. It really turned her off. So I think guys maybe don't have a theme in your bedroom. Like, I don't really have a theme in my bedroom at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Chapter 11, Saturday, June 2nd, 76 days until I can leave. So we pick off where Peter is approaching Daphne and Miles, and he basically says hi and says hi back. Daphne says hi back, and he's like, can I just have a moment with you alone, to Daphne? And Miles walks off, and then Peter and Daphne start talking, and Peter he just acts like he doesn't act good here. We see his like real side, I guess. He's like, you shouldn't be with Miles. Miles doesn't even talk to his family. Maybe more of this will be explained later. In this chapter, we don't get really into it, but this sets off Daphne. She gets pretty angry about Peter doing this. Like, Peter was the one who pretty much set her up for marriage and then at the last second ditched her. Like, how could you listen to this guy? Like, anything he says, like, it's just, I wouldn't trust this guy. But I think those type of comments would still linger in your mind. Anyway, she's furious, and she walks off to Miles and asks him, can I kiss you? To, like, I guess make Peter jealous. And at first their kiss is it's a pretty funny scene. Their kiss doesn't match well. Like, she's going ferociously and he's trying to go like a nice peck type thing. But eventually they start syncing up their kiss, and it's like pretty hot. This is the one time where it starts getting steamy, the way she describes. This is what I wanted, man. I think I wanted to read like an erotic novel. This is it's good. Like, it's a romance type thing. And we get some explicit things like, they're getting really close, and you can feel him getting kind of hard. So I kind of like reading that. Yeah, maybe this is a new thing that I like reading. Anyways, they go home.
and they're cooking, they're eating the cherries, they're cooking the asparagus, all these things that they went shopping for. And they start talking about, it's kind of nice of Daphne to tell the truth of like what she heard from Peter. And she talks about like, he said, at this point I made some errors. I keep saying Peter, but I meant to say Miles. And also, after they were kissing, like the whole point of them kissing was to make Peter jealous. But after they finished kissing, they turned around and like Peter was gone. Like maybe he drove off and he didn't even see it happening, which I find hilarious. You don't talk to your family anymore, and it seems like this affects Peter. And Peter does mention that he still has his sister. So I'm wondering what the past is about his mum and dad and anyone else in his family. The chapter ends where they're about to kiss again. Like, I guess they start opening up again. She tells him why she was a librarian, how she became a librarian. They're almost ready for another kiss, but the asparagus is like gonna get overcooked, and she's left trying to get this fizzle out of her body, so to speak. My prediction is they're gonna do it in the next chapter, I reckon. It just seems like things are getting hot for her. She wants it. I don't know about Miles. Miles probably wants it too, but he's got some other things on his mind. Yeah, so that's my prediction. We are on chapter 12, Thursday, June 6th, 72 days until I can leave. What happens? So about 3 weeks pass by and a few things happen during that 3 weeks. I guess they've sort of gone back to the awkward phase where Miles and Daphne kind of just, are at home and interact now and then and kind of avoid each other. But like, there's all that sexual tension, I guess, going on. She calls her mom and I think she wants to pick up a new hobby. Talking to her mum inspires her to pick up a new hobby, something like yoga. So she calls her friend the librarian. Yeah, actually Daphne was talking about that she made a new friend, the librarian. Her name was Ashley. Yes, the librarian. Ashley's like, I'll show you on next Wednesday. I'll show you the hobby that we should do. And it ends it there. Finally, Miles wants to set up like, I don't know, a movie date type thing. So they're watching at home, lots of action movies. And apparently this goes for like a week or so. They just every, I don't know if it's every night, but now and then they'll watch an action movie. The start of this chapter was pretty boring, honestly. Couldn't really get into it. And then finally, it has started happening. What I predicted, the banging has commenced. Yeah. I guess this all happened after she's on the floor, I guess, doing yoga or something. And, Miles comes in. He's like, are you ready to watch the movie? And they're like, yep. So they go watch another action movie. But yeah, like, I like the way Emily Henry builds up this tension. Like, she always adds in all these subtle moments of how she feels. Like, it's the way to describe her being horny. And there's like times where she describes Daphne's like nipples being erect and stuff. It's getting saucy. Anyways, finally, the sexual tension is too much, and they just have to start going at it. And yeah, they're having a good time. They don't get to the penetration though. They do all the foreplay stuff. Yeah. It's kind of cool seeing it written from a female's point of view. So, I'm learning a lot. Yeah, basically, lots of foreplay, lots of, like, words and stuff that keeps turning her on. Daphne's like, we shouldn't have sex. And he's like, yeah, we should. But they still keep going. But then this is all ruined because his phone, like, rings twice. Not twice, but, like, 3 times. And then on the 3rd time, he, like, checks it. And he sees the words Julia, and he's like, oh crap, I need to check this. And it's important because Julia is his sister. And now I'm thinking, because he has a lot of family problems, right? And he said that Julia would only call if it's like call that many times if it was like a really big emergency. So it's some sort of emergency happening with Julia. I don't know, maybe she's one of those depressive types, or she's got some relationship problems, or with the family. What else? Or maybe a family member has died. So definitely something's crazy happening with his family life. And it seems like his family life is something really sensitive that that we haven't found a lot of information in. So yeah, my prediction, I guess in the upcoming chapters, we're going to see what this whole family situation is. I don't really have a good prediction of what it could be. What could it be? Drugs? Abusive parents? Yeah. But he is close with his sister, so could be something with his parents. We're on to chapter 13. Basically, Daphne likes Miles, but Miles says, like, we should probably be friends. Don't want to ruin a good thing, but she still wants to sleep with him. Miles goes and picks up Julia from the airport. Turns out Julia's coming along. She's very spontaneous. There's still some mystery of why she's here, and we're not sure yet. We get a little bit of backstory into Daphne of why she is the way she is. And the way she is like she likes to be a person that prepares the house, I guess. Because back then she had a friend called Sadie, who they met through like a Jane Austen book. And that friend of hers would always like invite her out to parties and stuff, whereas Daphne would kind of just be the supporting character. And I think she learned this from her mum while her mum was like busy working, but she learned how to be, I guess, prepare the house well. So that's what she does. She goes and buys some food, some water, some drinks, and fills up the fridge, cleans up the house before Miles and Julia comes in. And eventually they come in, and she's quite a character already, Julia, this one. She's like full of energy, almost like a crazy dog. And Julia's like, we should be a team. Like his beard that is growing is bad. But she's like, I kind of like it. That's pretty much it of this chapter. Miles remembers that on Sunday they're going out with Ashley, and they're probably going to bring Julia along with them. And he's like, oh, you'll probably like Ashley or hate her. And we also find out that, what's his name? Miles is 36 years old. So I guess they're roughly my age-ish. I'm 34. And they plan on having pizza for dinner, but then Daphne changes her mind and says, we should make nachos. It's a little more sexy. So yeah, I wonder what's going to happen in the future. It's kind of, I guess the whole banging situation with Daphne and Miles is not going to happen for a while. We'll still get some of that tension. I think the tension will rise when they go out, and maybe Julia will notice this type of thing. We might also learn why Julia is even here in the first place. It's very spontaneous. But I think Julia will be kind of like a cool character. She might even end up liking living here and being friends with Daphne. Maybe you need the seal of approval of her. Actually, Julia says she was coming to help Miles because of this whole breakup thing. That's kind of the reason why, but I still think it's shrouded in mystery. Chapter 14, Saturday, June 22nd. 56 days until I can leave. I think we're almost halfway through the book. Chapter 14, yes. I actually forgot to mention that in the last chapter, Miles mentions about Daphne's story hour. So Julia's keen on visiting and seeing Daphne's story hour. And in this chapter, they both go, Miles and Daphne, they both check her out doing story hour. And Julia's like, oh, you weren't kidding. She's really good with the voices. I think it's funny. And apparently they have some sort of kayaking thing in the morning, like 5 o'clock. That's happening the next day. And Julia's like, oh, I don't want to go because I barely wake up in that morning that early. So it's just Miles and Daphne. So it's the next morning, and she's up and early as always on time, 4:58. And Miles is still in his room, and it's been like 5:15. She's waiting a while, and this thought kind of reminds her of her dad and how her dad would like not show up to things, that kind of stuff. And she starts feeling really bad, and then she starts kind of feeling like she ends up in this spiral of like this spiral that I kind of recognize in her, where things just
things start out bad and you just kind of keep thinking of the worst and start thinking of bad memories that happen. But luckily, Miles ends up coming out and he's like, "Oh crap! I didn't realize I was so late." Blah 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 blah. And yeah, they finally go out and kayak, and she's just really bad and unfit. And at some point, she mentions Peter, but a different Peter. Oh, but before that, she talks about her dad as well. She talks about how it was actually her dad that got her into reading books, and because he always brought so much energy to books and the library, and when she got older, she would always just visit the library, and yeah, that's how her library book and love of books have started. But yeah, because she mentions Peter, which is like a totally different guy. Apparently there was some rule where she could not mention him. He tips over the kayak with her in it, and she falls, and then she also does the same to him. And yeah, it's like another, little back and forth type, flirting type thing. I think their hands lock at some point, and she's like, "I want to keep paddling," because they're so close to the island. Before she was like ready to give up, but now because they're so close, and now because they've gotten a little bit closer through this flirting thing, she wants to keep going. I'm not sure what this island's all about. I didn't even realize that we're about to go to this place. Yeah, I guess I keep daydreaming during my reading. So my comprehension's kind of low, but maybe because they're secluded, maybe they're going to make out again, do some sort of thing. That's my prediction. Yeah, the chemistry is too strong. Also, we see a little bit of Miles' backstory and how he's very good at suppressing his emotions. That's what Julia says about Miles, and Miles is also he also shaved his beard, and Miles is, very closed off. So she describes him as like a lock box, and like at one point when Julia mentioned something, it had a crack on the bottom, but during their talk on the kayak, it flipped over and was back to the lock again. So he's very mysterious, and I wonder why it's killing me. Okie dokie. Chapter 15. So they're at this place called the Barn, where the letters BAR in capital letters, and then the N is in the lowercase letter. I think they eventually did kayak to this island, which is where the barn is at. And Julia and Ashley are there. I guess they just drove there. So we're in the middle of a party at the bar. And there's a bit of flirting as always between Miles and Daphne. And Ashley starts talking to Daphne about, have you guys slept together? I can see the signs. And they start... This is why I like Ashley. Every time Ashley comes in, there's lots of backstory that gets explored. Daphne tells Ashley pretty much about how they almost slept together, and how she doesn't want to pursue it because she feels like she wants to move out of this town, because she only moved to this town for Peter. And then Ashley tells her story about how she got divorced with this guy, Duke. Yeah, they basically were high school lovers, then they broke up, then after college, they met in a YMCA parking lot, and then they did it, and then they had a baby, and they pretty much just stayed together because of the baby. And he was the type that didn't want to self-improve, didn't want to do anything. He was happy to settle, and she wanted to explore things, find more about him, find more about her, but really they were just kind of together because of the baby. And she tried couples therapy, and only she went to couples therapy. Duke didn't want to go. And eventually they just kind of divorced after that. It's kind of sad how people can be like that, I guess. Maybe I could see me being like that, maybe. I don't know. Just settling down. Yeah, it's a bit tough. But yeah, I guess that story brings them a lot closer. I guess that was really it in this chapter. Yes. But yeah, the night's still young. I wonder what will happen. More flirting, more talking, more learning backstories. I don't really have a good prediction at the moment. I thought they were going to make out, but I guess because Ashley and Julia are there, it's not going to... Oh, also, we do get some backstory with Daphne's friend, Sadie.
They were best friends, but Sadie, I guess, had a boyfriend, Cooper. And because because Daphne was single, they didn't want to invite her out anymore. So it's almost like couples hang out with other couples type thing. And they start ignoring all the single people. Has that happened to me? I don't know. I'm not very good with keeping up with friends in the first place. Yeah, I don't really care if they're in a relationship or not. But yeah, I don't think that's happened to me, really. We also learned Daphne's last name might be Vincent. And yeah, I think this chapter kind of highlights that Ashley is probably her best friend, like one of her best friends that she's ever made type thing. And she wishes that they were friends before, meeting Peter and all this. Chapter 16, Tuesday, June 25th, 53 days until I can leave. So this chapter starts out with some plans being cancelled. Like Miles has to cancel this Sunday thing with Daphne, and then Miles also invites Daphne out on Saturday, but she declines that. And her thoughts of what's happened to my voice? Her thoughts of like, I'm not gonna push it because I'm gonna leave soon. But when she's on her phone, she sees pictures of Petra, and Petra has pictures of her and Sadie. Like, how did that even happen? And Sadie was Daphne's best friend before. And this, sets the fire within Daphne. She texts Ashley and she's like, what is this thing that you wanted to invite me to? And Ashley replies back, happens every once a month or type thing. And she also texts Miles saying, you know what, I can't come to your ticket thing or whatever it is. And the rest of this chapter is her playing poker with these old geezers. And it's kind of funny. And a lot of them are pretty wise and get to see that one thing that they said was that Daphne has always been a we type of person. Like, we love this, we love doing that, we go together. Like, she's always had someone that she's clinged on to. First it was her mum, then it was Sadie, then it was Peter. But she wants to be more of an I person. And I think in this chapter, she slowly, we see a hint of her like, maybe it's okay to stay in this place. So that's probably leading up to a good prediction where she ends up staying in this place. Yeah. And because she also, at the end of the chapter, she's like, I'm really glad to have you as a friend, Ashley. And Ashley's like, I'm glad you're my friend too. So I guess the next chapter is probably going to be about that date, the Miles thing, where he has 2 tickets to go to somewhere. Also, Julia already has the date. There could be more stuff about that. She's already been there for 3 days and she's already dating people. So yeah, lots of dating going around. This whole story is just dating. Chapter 17 is now June 29th on a Saturday. 49 days until I can leave. This was a very short chapter. So we find out what the 2 tickets are, but it's kind of like suspense. Miles is like keeping a secret, but the girls know. Ashley and Julia, they know what's happening. And Daphne's texting like, do you know what Miles has invited me to? And they're like, you still don't know? Anyways, Miles says, put on a good dress or something. And he takes her to this prom. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but apparently this prom is like some event some historical people put on, and actually not teenagers go. Some teenagers go to it, but no, there's only a teenage ballet. I think normal people just rock up to this prom. And Miles was like, it's a good place for you to meet your sponsors for your readathon, maybe. But things come to a halt. One, Daphne kind of infers that the 2 tickets he had were actually tickets that Miles had from way before when he was with Petra. So he just had the 2 tickets. And to their surprise, Petra and Peter walks in to the prom. And suddenly this place already feels so small, and they're contemplating whether they should stay or go. And Daphne, in her, impulsive jealousy type thing, when you have a recent breakup, you do the crazy type of stuff, which I mentioned earlier, and I'm right here. And Daphne's like, we should stay and, just have a good time. Let's see what's going to happen. I predict all that jealousy stuff is going to start unveiling. Maybe the Petra and Peter, they start thinking about the other couple, seeing that why they so happy. They get jealous. Maybe they want to try win them back, that kind of thing. It's a bit far-fetched, but it might happen in this story. You never know with this story. It could go anywhere. All right, chapter 18. It was pretty shocking. First, they bump into Petra, and, they're doing the whole friendly thing like, oh, you look so pretty. You too. And then I guess they start playing up their relationship. They make out in front of Peter and Petra. I think they say a few lines, I guess, to try and make each other insult each other subtly. Then they go off, and Daphne and Miles go off and dance, and they're kind of talking about each other, talking about the other people, Peter and Petra. And Daphne kind of misheard something, like she's implanting like a false memory where, just previous moments, she thinks that Petra called Daphne like a dowdy librarian, and it seems like she's taken some offense to that. But Miles is like, no, she would never do that. And this causes like a little rift. Anyways, during this whole time, I guess Peter is watching them. And so Miles comes up with a plan. After I make out with you, you should turn your face to the left. And the kiss is all great and stuff, but after the kiss, she doesn't turn to the left. Instead, the most shocking part is she runs away. And that's the end of the chapter. I can't believe she ran away. What's happening? I guess it's just too much for her. And we also get some backstory of Miles, like how Petra's family thought maybe he wouldn't be good enough for her. Like, if under pressure, he might end up doing something that he's done in the past, which is very mysterious. We still don't know. I feel like he's maybe OD'd or something at some point. And I don't know. Maybe it can't be that serious. I mean, because he has his life so kind of in order. Some sort of relapse. I don't know. Yeah, so she ran away. I wonder what that's all about. It's just, I guess it's too much for someone like her who's not used to this kind of thing. Although in this chapter, she did start talking to a lot of sponsors and got a few sponsors to care about her readathon. So that's a good plus. Yeah, I'm wondering, I guess it's a kind of a bad look that she ran off. Maybe it'll make Peter and Petra feel better. So I'm wondering how she redeems herself in this. And Miles, yeah, I got no predictions. Chapter 19. So Daphne's ran away from the party. She's feeling really dizzy, apparently. And Miles is like, oh, if you leave, I'll leave too. And I guess they get their truck or something, his truck. And I think they're driving, or maybe they're not. And she's like, I need to get out. And the author has a really good way of like blue balling you because they start getting steamy at this moment. I think she's like, oh, you only want to kiss me in front of them. You only just want to get them jealous. And then he like confesses, he's like, I've always wanted to kiss you when you were in the shower and all this. But then why did he say he just wanted to be friends or whatever? I guess that really hurt Daphne a lot. So they start getting really steamy at this moment. Like, they're pretty much undressing. He's about to go down on her and she wants to go down on him while they're in the truck. And then all of a sudden he kind of just explains why he is the way he is. So yes, this author just keeps blue balling us. So he's always had this mum who's really expects perfection out of her kids. And if not, she'll pretty much berate the kids. For example, when he was a child, he would get sick, like vomiting, and his mom was like, no, you're not vomiting, you're just making it up. So he had to end up going to school and vomiting in like silence. And
this resulted in him over years. This resulted in him like suppressing his emotions, that kind of thing. But when with Julia, the mom pretty much repeated this whole thing again, and he needed to get out this place. But that's why I guess Miles acts all perfect and stuff, but he's got a lot of emotions within him. And I guess he's really confused why Julia's here. So I guess when they were getting steamy, he just has a lot of on his mind, and that's why they didn't end up doing it. Yeah, so I think I was kind of right that their parents were crazy. I'm not sure if I did say that. We'll have to check. And they did make out again, but I guess they haven't done it yet. And I feel like it'll be put off until like the end of the book or something, because she seems to just keep blue balling us. So maybe next up will be, my prediction, next chapters will be something about Julia doing something reckless. And then Miles will have to deal with that drama. They all deal with that drama. Julia will feel happy. And then eventually it'll be the marriage time. No. And then, dude, I got this whole formula in my head. And then Daphne and Miles will do it. And then it'll come to the wedding time, and that will ruin their relationship. But then they will somehow get back together. And then in the end, it's all happy. So that's my predictions. All right. Chapter 20, Thursday, July 4th. 44 days until I could leave. If I still want to. Ooh, that's a first sign. Looks like she probably won't end up moving. Easy prediction right there. This chapter was pretty short. They don't really continue on from last night. Basically, there's all these new boxes of moving in type thing. And Julia is essentially moving all her stuff from Chicago to wherever they live now. And it's just lots of moving. That's pretty much it. Julia paid off her roommate to like box it all up and send it over here. And she's staying in Miles's place until she can find a place to rent. I'm actually wondering how big Miles's house is for a guy who just works in like, I don't know, a bartender. I don't know how he can afford such a big place. So the big cliffhanger is Julia is packing all this stuff, and she goes into the closet, one of the closets, and there Daphne's wedding dress is still there, and it shocks everyone, and that's kind of the cliffhanger. So I wonder what will happen, how will they react in the next chapter. I guess they talk about it, maybe they throw it in the bin, I don't know. Maybe that's too drastic, but if I think they do something, maybe they light it as some sort of symbolic way of her showing that she's moving on. But I guess wedding dresses are very expensive, so she might just keep it, and it might come back if she ever marries Miles. Okay, chapter 21. So Daphne decides to wear her dress, and we also get a bit of backstory on Miles and Julia. And basically, Miles will always go to help Julia, but when he does help Julia, he leaves something behind. So, for example, I think he left all his friends behind at one point, just so he could help Julia. It was kind of uneventful. Daphne and Ashley and Julia are all together, and they get Julia to wear the dress. She struggles to wear the dress. It brings up her memory of trying on this dress with her mum, and her mum saying like, this is the dress for you, and like, you don't really owe me anything, because if you haven't crashed the garage door and stuff like that, because her mum was, I guess, a bit rebellious back then. Yeah, so when she goes out, the house is all empty. Like, Ashley and Julia have already left, and Miles arrives. Good timing as always. Like, this book is just like crazy coincidence. And Miles likes the dress, and he jokes about like, you should wear it to the wedding day of Peter and Petra. And things get into a kerfuffle when she goes into a room to try to take it off. Turns out she can't take it off. And predictions, that's pretty much the end of the chapter. Predictions is Miles will come and help take it off. And then this is the chapter where they're gonna bang. You know, it just helps zip it up. and then he slowly touches her, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm hoping for some spiciness. And we're almost done with the book. I think I might be able to finish it today or tomorrow. Okay, just finished chapter 22. It was a really short one. Basically, Miles helps Daphne out of the dress. He gets some chapstick and uses it to lube the zipper, and then now it's a joke. Not much really happened in this. Nothing really steamy happened, unfortunately. I think the author's just going to prolong it till the end of the book, or even never. So at this point, there's not much happening, I guess. It's hard to make a prediction. But yeah, she eventually gets out of the dress. It's like she basically couldn't breathe before. I mean, I guess with that amount of time, maybe you put on heaps of weight. And I wonder if this is a real thing with wedding dresses. Like, can they get really that tight? Yeah. I guess I have been stuck in some clothes sometimes. So yeah, I guess you would feel really panicked if that happened to you. Yeah, so not even a kiss or anything. I thought they liked each other, and I thought they admitted it to each other, and there hasn't been any sign of that whatsoever. Very curious. So we need another thing to shake up the story because there's still like 20 something days until this readathon and Peter and Petra's wedding. So I have no predictions whatsoever now. We need something. All right. Chapter 23, Wednesday, July 24th, 24 days until the readathon. Yeah, so this chapter, her dad starts calling her back. Well, starts calling her for some reasons, and Daphne doesn't pick up and doesn't really message back. She's talking with her mom about things. I don't know, this whole chapter is just like nothing's really happening. I think there's some point where this book is getting so mundane, honestly. I'm about to give it like a 3-star, 2-star, I don't know. I don't know what the big hype is. Basically, some things happen, but it's not that really important. I think at some point she's gonna paint her house or something. But anyways, the big part of this chapter is her dad's asking for, is this the right address? And it's the address for Miles's place. And when she goes home, she opens the door, and surprise, there's this lady with like big beehive hair, who I assume is the dad's girlfriend. And then the dad comes out of the kitchen. So the dad came to visit Daphne for some weird reason. He seems happy. Same with the beehive lady. And maybe in the next chapter, they can reconcile their relationship, because it always doesn't seem that great. He's always like pretty distant somewhere else, always dating some other girl, that kind of thing. And she doesn't seem to like him that much. So hopefully we get some sort of resolve in that. Yeah, but yeah, this book so far, it's kind of draining to read, honestly. Nothing crazy is happening, which I like. I think I like big stakes in my story, and that's not really happening. Chapter 24, Thursday, August 13th. No, Thursday, August 1st. 16 days until the readathon. We're getting closer to the end. So in this chapter, it pretty much almost turns into a sitcom, and even Daphne kind of thinks about it, because her dad and his like partner, what was the name? Forgotten. Oh, Starfire. What kind of name is Starfire? Yeah, they kind of just turned the whole thing into a sitcom, and I can imagine like a audience laughing in the background with everything happening. It almost seems like they want to move in as well into this one apartment. Like everyone's just moving into Miles's apartment. So the story is getting a bit comedic now, all of a sudden. I think Dad and Starfire are on their way to like Vermont, and this is kind of like a pit stop. Good way to meet up with Daphne again. He seems really happy with Starfire, and Daphne's like, ugh, I hate this. Pretty much like, what are they doing here? One funny scene is like, she says that Jason or JJ and Starfire have been linked in the past. Like she used to be on the Titanic, and this rich lady, and he used to be one of the poor beggars, and they've been married like lots of different times, like reincarnated, that kind of stuff. And Daphne's like, oh, like the movie Titanic. And then Starfire's like, what's that? I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, Miles and Julia are all there, kind of just like, what's going on? Yeah, pretty weird chapter. Pretty funny chapter, I guess. I wonder what's gonna happen next. No real predictions. I guess there's gonna be more Dad and more JJ and Starfire shenanigans until we get to this wedding. Yeah. Oh my god, it's been a while since I've read this chapter 25. I have so little to go and I just can't be bothered to even keep reading. But I will hopefully finish it today, even though I said that a while ago. This chapter, I think they're just hanging out with their dad, Julia, Starfire, Miles, and Daphne. All hanging out. I think they go on a boat first. And throughout this time, Daphne just has mixed emotions. She's like, oh, I hate this. But then I should feel happy about Dad and all this stuff. It's kind of mysterious. And then I think they go out and eat somewhere. And the dad gets Daphne like a late birthday cake, that kind of thing. And at the end of the chapter, she's like, maybe this is fine. Like, maybe I can be happy in this place with Dad, and Miles and Julia and Waning Bay. So, yeah, she's thinking about still staying. I think at this point you should. I don't know why you're moving. Like, why are you in such a rush to move? And I think she just feels bad because she wants to be mad at her dad, but her dad's like all happy and nice to her. A funny thing that did come up in this chapter was story hour. Like, it was mentioned that Daphne does story hour, and that Dad and Starfire should come and watch her do story hour at the library. And it was funny that her dad used to date some librarian and would always go to that library, but then when they broke up, they started going to a different branch. Yeah, I think not much is happening. I don't know. I just don't really know where this book is going. Like, there's not too much left. I guess there is quite a lot left. I don't know. We'll see. Let's just keep going. We're chapter 26. I think I should start annotating books, like having highlighters, pens, and all that. All right, so this chapter, Dad and Starfire, at the end of the night, they're going to go to a motel, but the motel has really bad reviews. Like, their beds always have bed bugs. So Daphne's like, no, you should stay with us. We'll set up different sleeping arrangements. Julia will put out a air bed or something. She'll sleep on the couch. And Miles will, yeah. Not much actually happens. Like, there's not much drama. Like, I thought maybe there'd be some sneaky, like, Daphne and Miles had to sleep in the same bed, but not. The next day, they go to a brewery. Starfire and Dad and Daphne. And I think here she realizes, first, a funny bit was Starfire's like, oh, you could just call me Mum. And she's like, oh. So that's why I thought maybe I should start annotating books. I'll do it for the next book, I guess. Her dad's like, he says like, I'm proud of you type thing. And she like kind of accepts it. And towards the end of the chapter, she's like, if Dad can change, maybe I can change too. And she holds a toast and she says, to family. So she's accepting everything. So I think that's probably the end of the dad saga. Like, she's, like, I guess having her dad in her life helped her realize she can change, people can change, and that she enjoys this place, Waning Bay. So hopefully that arc of the dad and all that is all gone. I guess they'll still come back. They still need to see Story Hour and I guess the readathon as well. So, yeah. I guess we haven't even mentioned Peter and Petra in a while. I guess, actually, last chapter did mention them, but yeah, we sort of just moved on. This book's kind of just like almost like a day in the life of this person. Like, yeah, that's chapter 26. What are we up to? Chapter 27, Saturday, August 3rd. 14 days until the readathon. This chapter was disappointing because, last chapter I was so happy about Daphne and their dad sort of rekindling, and her have changing her mind about her dad. But this chapter, the dad lets her down as always. So they're doing story. Daphne's about to do story hour, and Miles is like, "I'm sorry, but your dad's not coming." He and Starfire, they got a message to go somewhere and visit a friend type thing, and they left. And just like always, Dad doesn't leave a note or anything, or a text, whatever. And she's really bummed about this. Yeah, I guess she does care about her dad and stuff, but her dad always does this kind of thing. So maybe people can't change. Sometimes there's a glimpse of change, but then they don't really change. I personally believe people can change. I've definitely changed over the years. But it is hard to, you can't fully 100% change, I would say. There's always a little glimpse of, that thing. So she's really upset, and she asks Miles to take her somewhere new. And I think he takes her to this, beachy place. And for, a split second, she kind of forgets about all her problems, and she thanks Miles. And Miles is like, "I didn't do this to be nice," hinting that maybe it's because he likes her, and that kind of thing. So maybe this is the chapter where they're gonna get steamy. They're gonna make out and stuff. I hope. Come on. What kind of book is this? Is this like a romance? I don't know. Chapter 28. Finally, things have gotten steamy. They come home from their trip all still wet, but they finally decide to do it. I forget why. I forget what the reason was. But let's just say things have finally reached the point, and they finally do it. And, it's not that explicit, as I'd like to be. So maybe I need to try reading an erotic novel. I think I'll have to give that a try. Yeah, I want some full-on explicit. But yeah, so they do it. It's great for both of them. And I guess after that, they have a talk about what Daphne does to people. I think Daphne reveals, with Daphne, when she meets people, she wants all of them. She wants the good and the bad. And some people are afraid of that feeling of exposing their badness, that kind of thing. So a lot of them kind of run away from her. Like Peter, I guess he was gonna be really boring. His bad side was a boring side. So he ran away from her to Petra, who's more exciting. Miles also is really glad. He shows his bad side to her, and it's the first time he's done that, and he feels free, I guess. So yeah, Daphne has that kind of habit, and with Daphne's dad, I guess he saw that bad side within himself, and he couldn't stand it to stay any longer. Yeah. So after that talk, they decide to do it again, and that's the end of the chapter. They're like, "My room or your room?" Miles says. Yeah. So finally, Daphne's got a love interest. Things are looking up for her. It just took a lot of chapters to get to here. But what's next? I guess we're going to start addressing the readathon. We're also going to start addressing Peter and Petra's wedding. What's going to happen with that? Yeah, I'm curious. And also, this chapter talked about Julia as well. Julia, okay, so her dad stalks Julia's social media and found out where Julia was working, and then her mum came and got her fired or something. And then so Julia left Chicago to come here at Waning Bay. Because remember, the mum's psycho, and the dad, I don't know what the dad does at the moment. So yeah, so I guess this drama has to be sorted out next before all the others. Yeah, there's 3 big things. There's Julia's story, and Julie's story, and that whole family, and then there's also the readathon, which I feel won't be too big. I guess we get to see Ashley again,
the readathon, and then there's the wedding. Yeah, three big things to go. How will what's the author's name? I don't even know the author. Doesn't even say Emily Henry. How will Emily Henry wrap up this story? Chapter 29. Well, it's actually called Sunday, August 4th, 13 days until the readathon. This chapter was like 2 pages long. Basically, it's like the night after the good deeds, the sex, and she basically wants to say I love you, but she doesn't feel like it's appropriate yet. That's pretty much that chapter. And then chapter 30. Oh yeah, and then I just read chapter 30, which is Monday, August 5th, 12 days until the readathon. Now, with this chapter, with all that's been happening in the past few days, you know how she went to the beach area with Miles and they actually had no service? Well, that was the day where she was supposed to meet up with Ashley and do the painting thing for her birthday. And after work, I think... No, in the morning. Before work, Daphne, she's feeling happy. She gets a coffee for Ashley, but then realizes, she completely forgot about this whole painting thing with Ashley. And then she runs over to Ashley, and Ashley is all just like, don't talk to me. That kind of thing. And it's almost like she now she knows what it feels like to be her dad, I guess. They don't mention this, but you know how her dad would always just ditch someone and then not reply back. Seems like to be a common theme in this story, where you ditch someone without any good explanation, or you ditch someone without being able to explain your thing. So yeah, she tries to explain to Ashley, and Ashley's just like, it's just you and Miles. You don't need me. I'm just the backup. Saying all these things. Like, obviously she's hurt. But, Daphne's trying to make it up. She's coming up with a plan. After work, Miles was supposed to pick her up. But then Miles does the same thing. Like, Miles ditches Daphne last second. He's like, he texts her like, yeah, I'm good. You good? And then she's like, you were supposed to pick me up. And then he's like, he doesn't reply. And then so she ends up walking home to the apartment, and she doesn't call it home anymore. And at the same time, the place calls the job interview place for the library. They looked at their resume and they wanna accept Daphne to go work at that library, but they have to do like an interview. And in her like manic state, she's like, okay, sure. Yeah, so crazy timing. Like Emily Henry, I think I noticed a pattern. It's like one chapter's good, one chapter's bad. One chapter's good, one chapter's bad. One good, one bad. And this is the bad chapter. Next chapter might be a good chapter. I don't know. It's just lots of ups and downs. Yes. So, what's going to happen? Well, now she needs to somehow fix things with Ashley. She needs to figure out what the hell is going on with Miles. Why is all of a sudden he started acting like this? Again, it's probably some family business. And if it's the family business, then the Julia subplot will be touched upon. At this point, I don't really have that much predictions. It's kind of like I'm just enjoying the ride, or more frustrated at the ride, feeling car sick at the ride. I don't know. Let's try finish this. I know I said I would, but I'm struggling. I just want to do other stuff. Okay, chapter 31, Tuesday, August 6th, 11 days. It's getting so good, this part. We kind of learn what this whole Miles thing, where he's been and everything. So Daphne goes to work, buys Ashley like this Peruvian donuts or something, or Persian, one of the two. And again, she said hi, Ashley said hi back. And that was kind of the extent of that interaction. I think this chapter kind of cements that maybe my prediction is like this she'll end up moving away from this place. It just seems like
things aren't going too well. At the door, someone knocks at her door, and it's Peter. And we finally get like a resolve on this kind of Peter and Petra thing. We learn that Peter and Petra called off their wedding, and like Petra wants to move on, like, and Peter has all these like regrets, and he wants to take Daphne back basically. And Daphne has gone through a lot of like self-improvement. She would rather be a me than a we. And maybe this is a theme of the story. It seems like people will let you down. I actually don't know where this story is going, but like it seems like maybe she will move away from Waning Bay and be happy. And maybe it's all about being yourself. It seems like every person in her life sort of lets her down in some way. Although there's some signs where her dad has been trying to call back, and it seems like Ashley's slowly warming up, and where Miles has been helping Petra out, moving her stuff, and he didn't want to tell her that, I guess. But maybe there was a good reason. And Peter kind of insinuates that, they're probably hooking up right now, and perhaps we should hook up too. But Daphne's changed, and she's like, no, get out. Basically, bye Peter. So that's the end of the Peter and Petra saga. Although there's still the Petra part. And we need to know why Miles didn't tell the truth and kind of let Daphne down. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard prediction. Will she stay or will she go? I get the feeling we'll get some resolve with the dad. We'll get some resolve with Miles and Petra, and some resolve with Ashley. So I think she will actually end up staying. And maybe on the day of the readathon, all this will come and it'll be a good, happy ending. And then we still haven't heard from Julie in a while. What is she doing? I think she moved back to Chicago to get some stuff. Yeah, that was a really good chapter, that one. Finally, we're actually at the main plot, I felt like the main plot was like the whole Peter, Daphne fiasco. And like they were gonna, rock up to the wedding and, experience it, sabotage it maybe. I felt like that was kind of the start of the book, and then it just kind of went on to like her whole life, I guess, like a slice of life type book. It reminds me of the slice of life animes, it's just like day-to-day type thing. Yeah, but it seems like it's finally leading somewhere, and I'm excited to see how it goes. Only just like 5-ish more chapters. All right, we're almost getting to the climax of the story. Or actually, this might be the climax. So Daphne, she's in a rush. She doesn't want to meet with Miles. Like, she can hear him in the house. And so Ashley... why do I keep saying Ashley? Daphne, goes to work. And it's a stormy day, so she doesn't bring an umbrella, doesn't bring a coat or anything. And at work, Ashley and Daphne have resolved into co-workers. And one good sign is Ashley offers Daphne a ride home because of the rain, but Daphne declines. So she's walking home in the storm, and this car like pulls up to her, different car, and it's actually Miles. And she hops in, and they have that talk, and it takes a while for Miles to finally admit that he was helping out Petra. So Peter was right, and Daphne's pretty upset. And Miles says like, "I love you," in a not in a direct way, but like, doesn't mean I don't love you type thing. And then she's like, "You don't get to say that, because you've done all this bad things. All I needed was to rely on you to come and all this stuff. That's all I want." That kind of stuff. And then she gets out and walks home. Yeah, so Miles really was helping Petra move out, and he let her borrow his truck. And he said he realized he really messed up and he regretted this whole thing. So he borrowed Petra's car. I think they swapped cars, and that's the car that they're driving in. I think Daphne's just too emotional and can't really accept this apology. So, but I think that's a good sign. I think she's just really emotional right now. She'll come to her senses. And she kind of does when she talks to her mum. Her mum's always been like that rock, that stone for her. And she's always been there for her. And on the call, she says stuff like, "I wish I could be like you, Mum. She's like, mom's like, no, you just got to be the best you ever, and you know, motivational stuff, kind of like that, and that kind of sparks Daphne to make some more moves. She's like, all right. She calls up Harvey from the library and she's like, can you organize another poker night with Ashley type thing? So she's planning a big surprise with Ashley. She's not giving up. And I think she will give another chance with Miles after that. Yeah, it's getting, I would say this is probably the climax of the story. And I think the ending will have them watching Bridget Jones's Diary, which I haven't even watched yet. So I'm going to put that on my watch list. I got to watch Bridget Jones's Diary. I completely forgot about that whole subplot, but it's going to come back in the end, I hope. If it doesn't come back in the end, this book's a 1-star book. So I guess the next chapter will be about Ashley and they'll reconcile. And then after that will be Peter. And after that, Julia somehow. Yeah. I forgot to do this last chapter, but we're on chapter 33, Friday, August 9th. 8 days. 8 days left until this book ends. Woohoo! So finally we get a nice reconcile with Ashley and Daphne. It was good. She kind of... Okay, so I thought she was going to surprise her at the poker night. But as I was reading the chapter, I slowly realized what she was doing. And the plan was for Daphne to break into Ashley's house so she could paint her room. But Ashley's like, yo, this is so suspicious. Like, when she arrives home a bit early and she's like, yeah, it was a bit too suspicious. Like a poker night all of a sudden and you were acting weird at the library. So she came home and she catches Daphne in the middle of painting it, or yeah, just wrapping up painting, listening to Miles' sad music. And the girls finally talk it out and Ashley apologizes for being so icy. Daphne also apologizes and all is all good, and Daphne tells her about her problems with Miles and that she might be moving to that new library place. And Ashley says, like, you know, you two are perfect for each other and that's kind of what love should look like. And I think the reason why Ashley didn't text back Ashley could have texted to Daphne about not showing up, but she didn't do it because she likes to test people. Like when she was with her husband, she would test him, like, will he do the laundry? Will he do this? Will he do that? So, also, Ashley seems to live in like a big mansion. I don't know how she affords it. But yeah, so next chapter, well, I guess she might go do her job interview. Okay, predictions. She'll go do her job interview. It will go well. She'll do the readathon. Maybe Miles surprises her at the readathon. And then they make up, you know, get steamy one more time. They probably won't get steamy. It'll be all more romantic. They watch Bridget Jones's Diary together. And she decides to stay and everyone's happy. I'm hoping for a happy ending. Like, there's no way Daphne will... I don't know. I feel like she's going to stay in Waning Bay. Like, there were so many signs they were going to stay in Waning Bay. But it's kind of... I like how on your toes Emily Henry has put me. It's like, will she stay or won't she stay? It's always like, will they do this? Will they do that? I don't know. Yeah. Let's find out. Chapter 34, Saturday, August 10th. 7 days left. Couple things good happen in this. Things are picking up. This is the action that I want. So the interview with the library goes well. I think it's a online interview type thing, video interview. Daphne needs a reason to go back home to get something because she forgot to buy it. She goes home. When I say home, it's Miles's home. She goes in, Miles is not there. And she picks out her dad's like note from the bin. Surprised it was still in the bin. And I guess she starts realizing that, you know, I think she should give people a chance type thing. I think. I forgot why. Yeah. So she's slowly changing as a person. Things are looking good. All this drama's slowly fading away. I guess these are the falling actions in the plot, the structure of a plot. So I think it's dark. I don't know. She turns off the light and she bumps into someone. She thinks it's like a burglar or something. They're both swearing at each other, and they realize it's Julia. Julia has come back, and I think we kind of see the role Julia has in this whole thing. She's there to kind of give backstory on Miles. She basically says that Miles he grew up without a childhood, and he basically mistrusts himself like constantly. I don't know what that actually means, to mistrust yourself. I guess I have felt that a lot of the times. Like, I feel like I'm doing something good, but then I feel like other people don't think it's good, so then I just don't think I am good. And maybe it's a horrible feeling, honestly. So maybe that's going inside of Miles. So a lot of backstory, and Julia's kind of mad at her because he said, "I love you," and she didn't say it back, that kind of thing. But I think we're getting to the steps of where Daphne's gonna go back to Miles and, fix things. And it'll all be good. There's only 7 days till this thing goes over. It's leading up to that big readathon. Will she stay? Won't she stay? She's pretty much 90% sure that she can get the job. I think she's gonna stay in Wedding Bay. It's just too good. She's got Julia, Miles, and Ashley. And she likes Story Hour. Maybe Story Hour, when she does the readathon, she'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss these kids," type thing. I had a sneak peek of the next chapter. And it looks like she read a bit of her dad's note, but I haven't seen what it says. But maybe that'll also force her to reconcile with her dad as well. She's got to fix all these relationships. Poor her, A lot of self-growing. I wonder what the moral of this story is. I guess it's like, you gotta push through the hard times, I guess, with people, Ooh, chapter 35. That was crazy. It says Friday, August 16th, one day. And I'm kind of confused because it seems like it's already the readathon day. Weird. Anyways, yeah, she reads Dad's note, and it's just the usual. I forgot something came up, and he's got to go, that kind of thing. Now, the dad, it's up to the readathon, and the dad calls her 3 times or something, and then finally she decides to call him back, and they have this massive talk, and this was pretty emotional, very confronting. Like, she's finally dealing with the issues she's had throughout her whole life with Dad. But basically, Miles has gone and drove 2 hours away to talk to the dad, to come to this readathon type thing. But then I think things kind of happen, and he missed this ferry because they're on some island, and he's had to stay there or something. So I don't know. That's why he's not at the readathon. Also, at the readathon, everyone's sick with the stomach bug. Volunteers and one of the staff members. They have this chat, and she's like, "Look, Dad, you were a terrible father. You were never there for me. People always had to make excuses for you. The people that loved me always had to make excuses for you, just like Mum and all these other people." And it's pretty much dead silence. And I think the dad tries to explain something. He's like, "Oh, Daphne." He's about to explain something, but Daphne's too busy. She has to go and go do her performance for the readathon type thing. So I guess, yeah, this is the day of the readathon. But yeah, so she doesn't know how to feel. She's a bit angry that Miles went off and tried to do this thing, but I think that's you want people to not do the expected thing sometimes. Keeps things interesting. Miles tries to help Daphne and make the readathon all good, but yeah, ends up being stuck type thing. So I think in the future chapters we'll see what the dad really wanted to tell Daphne. Also, he said in his letter, it said "I'll see you in October," which I'm not sure what that means. And she calls Mum about that. So I wonder what that means. Is that when they were getting married, her dad and Starfire? Also, Starfire is kind of angry that they had to drive back or something, that kind of thing, to go see Daphne or something. I don't know. It's kind of complicated. Lots of details that I'm, trying to kind of miss. Let's just keep seeing what happens. I guess the readathon goes well. Will Miles make an appearance, or is he stuck at that place? Will some other characters be there? Julia? I don't know. Let's keep finding out. Chapter 36. So I'm still confused if it's the day of the readathon or if they're preparing for the readathon. What is going on? I think they are preparing for the readathon. Maybe. Everyone, all these people come in, volunteers, I guess. And guess what? It's Julia and Miles and all these people from the barn and all this. And in that moment, she's like, she feels lots of love. She's like, thank you for coming. It means a lot to her. Like, just showing up, being there means a lot to Daphne. And in that moment, she's like, I love Miles. That kind of thing. So, we're off to a happy ending. And I think her mom texts her and Daphne texts back. And, you know, they're like, I love you. You're doing great. Blah, blah, blah. Best of luck type thing. And she's like, thank you. And yeah, Ashley also says, I love you to her. And Daphne says, I love you to Ashley as well. So lots of I love you. Now we just need her to say it to Miles. And then maybe Miles say it to Julia and Daphne. I don't know. Yeah, not much happened in this chapter. It's confusing whether the readathon just finished or if they got one more, where tomorrow is like the actual day. Let's see. But it's the chapter ends at a cliffhanger where Daphne's, I guess, about to go up to Miles, who baked some really delicious brownies, by the way. Chapter 37, Sunday, August 18th, finally. Miles and Daphne, they go for a walk and they have a big conversation. Miles pretty much tells her what happened with Petra. I think Petra said things about like Petra learned from Peter that about Daphne's dad and how Daphne likes certainty and wants a home and all these and kids and all that stuff. And the reason why Peter and Petra broke up was because Peter wanted kids, she didn't want kids. And yeah, it's a big conversation. Miles pretty much just says, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And it takes ages for Daphne to like say it back. And she's saying like, she's moving out, but she's staying in Waning Bay into this place near Fika. I don't know what this Fika is. Is Fika a person or a coffee store? Was that mentioned before? I don't know. And then finally she says, I love you too, but she needs space to be her. Like, you know how there was that theme where she always had to be a we. Like, she always needed someone throughout her whole life. And this time she wants to just be herself. Be with herself, figure things out on her own type thing. And I thought they were breaking up at this point. I thought she was going to move away, but no, I think she's staying, and, you know, it's good for her, I guess. And I think there's visions of things that happen in the future or things that do happen in the future. Like, you know, Julia at a bonfire, hanging out with Ashley, being in the snow with Miles, cuddling up in the beds when in the winter, that kind of thing. So we're up to the last chapter. Hopefully they watch Bridget Jones's Diary. Come on, you gotta watch it. If not, this book. What are you doing, Emily Henry? It's the one thing that was mentioned so much. They have to end it there. It'll be cool to watch back all my predictions and see if I was right. Like, I've kind of forgotten a lot of my predictions. I guess in this chapter, we'll wrap things up. The thing about her dad in October will happen. Maybe Miles will pop the question, get engaged again. Is that too soon? Julia's probably lives here too. I guess we don't really get much of a resolution about their parents, but, you know, sometimes you just have bad parents and you just move away. That's all you need. Yeah, let's see. Oh, yes, we made it. We finally finished. That was chapter 38. Friday, October 3rd. 412 days since I stayed. So it's been a year. And so on. Oh yeah, a few chapters ago, the readathon did happen. It was just like I was reading and my mind started wandering off and I did not comprehend anything. Yeah, the kids were all reading and yeah, good stuff. Now in this chapter, it's like, I think it's a bit confusing. Is Daphne at her new home and they're all coming into that place where, like, you know, the aircon doesn't work that well, the doorbell doesn't work that well. Or did Daphne and Miles buy a home together, which is this new house? It's kind of confusing because it does say that they did buy a house together, which might be this. He and Daphne visited their mum at some point, so they got to meet him, and now everyone's coming into this place. Mum, Julia, Ashley, all the people at the library, Harvey. Yeah, it's just all a fun time. And there's one person who doesn't know the story of how they got together. And I actually really dug this ending. She's like, Miles says it's a funny story, but I'll let you tell the story. Daphne, which goes back all the way to the start where she said she wasn't good at telling stories, but I think through all this like story hour and this whole experience, she can actually tell this story really well, you know, and she's got all the voices and stuff. And I wish we got to see her tell it, you know, but you can imagine it's a good way to finish it. I just wish they showed that they watched Bridget Jones's Diary. Like 0 out of 5 stars because of that. Yeah, that's the end of the book. I can't believe it. There's still the acknowledgements to read. I don't know how important that is. Yeah, final thoughts. I might have to put it into a video. Final thoughts. Let's read the acknowledgements and then we'll do the final thoughts, okay?